Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Today is a particularly inspiring episode. Well, it is if you are the type of business person that takes action and can appreciate it when others do too. Darci Hether is on the show today, and Darci is here to let you know that if and when you come across new ideas, new business strategies, that if you not only hear them, but you also implement them, then you can change your business for the better. Darci began her design career in Southern California in 1998 before she moved to New York City in 2002. Once she got in New York, Darci worked as a lead designer and project manager for notable and award-winning firms such as Workshop APD and Vicente Wolf Associates. Then in 2008, Darci founded Darci Hether New York. She was named Rising Star by New York Cottages and Gardens. And today, Darci is going to share with us how she turned up the productivity and profitability on her interior design firm this year. Now, before I tell you about our sponsor and we get back to the show, I just want to let you know that I've been asked to moderate a panel on design and tech at America's Mart in Atlanta, dates 9/26 or 27, not finalized yet, and that I will be hosting another Facebook Live event at the opening celebration of the brand new Kravitz showroom in Philadelphia. This will be sometime the first week or so of October. Again, date TBA, okay? And I just have to say one more thing. This Friday, guys, Power Talk Friday, I got to interview Lee Cockerell. Now, I know most of you are thinking, who? Well, let me just tell you, holy moly. Lee was the executive vice president of operations for Walt Disney World Resorts, and he spent 10 years as the senior operating executive, where he led a team of more than 40,000 cast members. And I'm just going to say, no nonsense, wake the heck up advice. It was unreal. I was in heaven. I'm just saying. So, okay, let's give me a little minute to tell you about our sponsor, My Doma Studio, and then I'm going to be right back with Darci Hether, and you're going to love this show. Hey everybody, I have Marina here from Marina V's Design Studio in New Jersey, and I happened to walk in on a conversation where Marina was explaining to a colleague of ours in my window work showroom why she loves My Doma Studio, and she was specifically talking about how she previously thought My Doma was only valuable for designers that had lots of big projects. Marina, tell us what you learned by using My Doma Studio.
Well, I decided to try it on a smaller project, and I found it very useful because the same pieces apply to whether it's a large project or a small project. It's still a lot of work. I was able to upload all my contracts, the project photos, all the measurements and notes, and sourcing all the items made it so much easier and putting everything on My Doma.
I love that because you really learned that whether it's one living room or a whole house, it had value for you. And then there was one other thing that you said that you really liked, that something about putting together gifts for the holidays. Tell me what that was.
Yes, it allows us to put together packages and allows us to put gift certificates as part of the feature of the design packages. And I was featuring it around the holidays. It makes it easier for everyone to purchase it as gifts.
I love it. Hey, Darci, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Oh my goodness, Luann, thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy to actually have you on the show because we have been getting to know each other first through social media and then like coincidences. I don't even know, I didn't even tell you this coincidence before. And I did tell it to Christy Liu, who was a previous guest on the podcast, who we have in common, but I'm going to share it with you. So here's what's interesting is Christy and I, so if everybody listening, Christy was on an episode maybe a month or so ago, right? Mm-hmm. And Christy and I become friends. We become hooked up on Instagram. And then I make the announcement that I'm going to Charlotte to keynote the IWCE. She reaches out. She's like, I am completely signing up for this and going because you're going. And so I meet her there, right? And we said this on her show, we're chatting after the IWCE. And she tells me, we're just talking about business and what's going on and this and that and the other thing. And she's like, one of the really cool things that I've done in my business recently is that I met up with 3 other women. We met at a summit, one of Gail Dobie's seminars, and we were strangers before it. And we met each other and we kind of hit it off and we decided to have a summit together. And I think they had just come back. You guys had just come back from, she was like, we had this weekend. And I just looked at her, I'm like, stop telling me about it. You have to tell me about it on the podcast. Stop talking, right? So now at that moment, here's the funny thing. At that moment, she doesn't tell me the names of the other people. Okay. And of course I said, stop talking to me about it. I don't want to know anymore. I want to find out about it on the show. Right. Well, then literally the next 2-3 days after I get back from Charlotte, you email me and you are just emailing and sharing some love. And you're like, I love your podcast and I'm learning so much and thank you so much and yada, yada. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. Blah, blah, blah. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, I'm interviewing her and we're talking off air. And I said, by the way, tell me the other names of the designers, blah, blah, blah. And you were one of the designers. I'm like, wait. And I literally at that point, because you and I had only interacted one time, I was like, wait, I have to go into my emails. I think that this designer reached out to me. And she's like, what? So, hello. I said, what's so funny is this world is just getting smaller and smaller. And it's so much fun. And then you just came out to New York City last week and I met you face to face at the Designer Liberty event. So that was a lot of fun. And that show, we're recording on May 31st and that show was live today. So that's kind of fun.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so now what I love is that you're not just here for everybody listening to indulge me, but not just here because of your experience with Christy and having formed this little mini mastermind of you and these other 3 interior designers. And we're not even really going to even talk about that. I mean, we can get to it and I would love to actually spend a few minutes on it, on your observations of that. But we're mostly here because you reached out to me with this amazing email again. And you said to me, I'm actually going to read it. Let's just read it, Darce. You said, I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. I'm almost caught up and current with your podcast, currently on episode 141. And I figured out if I keep on track and listening 2.5 per day, I should be current in about 3 to 4 weeks. But in the meantime, I thought I'd share with you what I've implemented in my business so far because of you and your awesome guests. I'm sorry I can't recall the names of each of the different guests that you had that were directly responsible or instrumental for the below changes, additions, updates with my company. But here's the overview. And you literally listed 12 things here. And I went bonkers for this because I have to tell you, now Christy knows this because she was at the IWCE speech, but the crux of my message as an entrepreneur, in addition to establishing your core mission, establishing your mission, your core values, and really your systems. The third thing, the leadership and the systems, the thing for me, the gel, is the action, is the decision, is the deciding to do something. And when I saw this list, Darci, that you have done based on listening to the people on this podcast, that to me was just a slam dunk, because I think this is the biggest message that an entrepreneur needs to take heart in, is that yes, you have to do all the things that I say to do, that our guests say to do, that your friend across the aisle who has done it the week before and has that experience in his or her design firm and tells you that it works for you, tells you to do. But the thing is, if you just sit and take notes and you don't actually do these things, then it's like you may as well be watching, Scandal, right? I mean, let's be real. It's not real. And
Absolutely.
so Darce, honest to God. So I'm going to list the things for everybody so they can understand what an absolute dynamo you are. Okay. I mean, and first of all, your design work is gorgeous. So as an interior designer, you're extremely talented, but as a business person, this has got me so excited in general and so excited for you. So here's all the things that you've done. You have rewritten your bio. You have rewritten your About Me page. You have rewritten your services page. You've changed the layout of your website. You've buttoned up your processes. You've written an employee handbook. I'm exhausted. I'm only halfway through the list. You wrote your mission statement, which is now on the homepage of your website. You've written your company values. You've created 2 very detailed ideal client profiles. You've started Monday morning meetings with each week with your assistant. You've initiated time chunking, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You send out Friday follow-up emails to all of your clients to give them the status of their project. And if there's nothing to report, you send them a knock-knock joke. I love that. You have Friday cocktail reception with your assistant, and you share your wins of the week. And I can't stand it because Kimberly's going to hear this, and she's going to be like, when are we going to do this? You've added water, earth, and fire elements to your office. Still need to find a great mountain pick to put behind you. And you posted your design consultation fees on your website. Darci Hether, I'm telling you, high five right here virtually from me to you. Honest to God, Darce, honest to God. So first of all, I want to know look, there's a lot of things that I've instituted, some on this list from the last year from talking with podcast guests, but I would say my list is longer of the things that I have yet to do that I think are great ideas. What is it in you, Darce? Are you this way in everything that you just like, that's it, I'm doing it? Or was there a specific moment in time in your business? Get us into really how you went from inspiration to action.
Oh, good question. It was part out of need, absolutely needing to do these things. Also inspiration, your guests rather, are very, very inspiring to do these things. I sort of said a little bit of this off air. I hit, for the first time in my 10-year career, I hit a slow period this past December, and it was also coming off of the conference that you mentioned earlier, and it was a real kind of wake up. I sailed through the recession. I had great clients. I had people. I had one client in particular. We did 4 different projects for him between the years of 2007 and 2010. And they were big, big projects. So, I mean, I sailed through the recession, and the following years, I still had good clientele base and good people coming in the pipeline, and things kind of hit the brakes in December. And, we always, in our industry, there seems to be a little bit of a slow down period, right before the holidays. And I always say, if you're not in the middle of a project in December, you're not going to get a project in December because everybody's focused on holiday and travel and what have you. And so January happens, and, the phone wasn't really ringing. And I was really, for the first time, taking a look at my business. I had coaching in the past, and there were things that I had implemented, but somewhat begrudgingly. The first time anybody mentioned processes to me, I thought it was a 4-letter word. I
sort
hated
of
it.
is.
I mean, it just sounded so like
it's an essential one, but
I remember saying to my business coach, I hate that word. We have to come up with a different word. She's like,
just call
whatever
it something.
You want it, but
call it ice cream chocolate cake.
So I had started, I'd had the processes in place, but they were like, ugh, whatever. And so it was really looking at
whatever.
My business under a microscope and saying, wow, I need to really take a look at things and shake my business up. And so I don't know if I'd consider it the luxury of time or the necessity, because I did have time. There weren't projects, or we did have projects in the pipeline, but it was a lot of stuff that my design assistant could do. So I was really able to focus just on my business, not being in my business. And it was funny because I will, like I said, I'm usually averaging about 2.5 podcasts a day. And it was kind of getting to be a little bit much. Like I was melding 2 or 3 conversations into one, going, now who said what and what was it again? And I would walk into my office and the first words out of my mouth to my assistant were, so I was listening to the podcast, and she'd be like, oh my God, here she goes again. But it was, I really just kind of locked myself. Sometimes I would leave our office and I would go work at my home, because sometimes it was easier for me to just put blinders on and just do the work right there. But I thought, these things are really going to help move the needle, and they are so important. If I could talk to my younger self, the things that I would say,
Yes.
younger business self. So, and I've said it to you in person, I think, and through the emails, that, what you're giving people who maybe just starting out, or these, so much valuable information that we didn't learn in school,
Right.
and that you don't necessarily have to put 10, 15 years into it before you kind of go, oh, I need to have processes, I need to have a better bio, I need to have a better, cleaner website, what have you. So that was how I was able to get most of this stuff done, and will continue to do.
It's amazing. So just to clarify, we're literally recording at the end of May of 2017, and you're talking about this previous December 2016.
Yep.
Right.
6 months.
Right. And so, okay, so Dar, so what you're saying is now, and this is interesting because I have said this before too, like I go through the same exercises. Who is your target audience? Who is your ideal client? Who is your, demographic for the podcast, yada, yada. And it's funny because I'm working with Nicole Heimer now from Curio Electro, and she is really, she was a Power Talk Friday back in the winter, and she is a brand marketing strategist, and she is a website developer and so forth. And she's so much more than either of those things, honestly, but she's very talented. And it's the same. She's doing the same exercises with me that we always talk about that you guys should do. Tell me about your ideal client. And it's funny because I literally say, well, yes, it is the brand new interior designer. Of course, it's the brand new interior designer that's coming out of school, or coming out of their first position, or coming out of whatever position, but going on to into business finally for him or herself for the first time, and trying to give them the benefit of my 30 plus years in experience, a perspective on that, but then obviously drawing out all of the experience and the wins and the processes and the different things that have been successful for your colleagues, by your colleagues, right? Because you don't get taught that in school. But I also say to Nicole is, the other demographic, the other target is a seasoned designer who is either experiencing a lull or has never really felt like they hit their stride. And I feel like that is also a very common thing in every industry. Of course, we talk to designers here, but the point is that there are a lot of people that are in business despite themselves, that they are in business, and that maybe they're busy every day, but they're busy every day. They're not busy productive every day, and maybe even though they're busy, they're not profitable. And so I think it's really amazing that somebody with, like yourself, 10 years experience, literally is going to sit here and say to us, look, I got slow. And when I started listening to, whether it's this podcast or started reading a book or whatever, I found out that there were, 15 things here that I could do to improve what I'm doing. And so the first thing is like I said to begin with, hats off to you for taking action and not just listening and, mulling and everything else. But secondly, would you take a couple of these things that you've done and maybe relate the process of doing, so was there any one of these, Darci, that you did that was hard for you to do, that you sat there and you were maybe listened to the podcast and had to re-listen to it and really figure out, well, what do they mean by doing this? Or it was just difficult in identifying yourself on how to do it. Is it something like that come to mind?
Well, the rewriting of the bio was very difficult. And it was funny because, I wrote my bio when my website went live, 10 years ago when I first opened up my business. And it was kind of like, okay, well, that's done. So I can just walk away from that. And, reading it, it's like the old one, it was like, this is horrible. And so it was Fred Burns, and he was talking about the killer bio. And so I contacted Fred, and we did the half-hour consultation, and he was, just within that 30 minutes pulled out this,
really
gave me really good, it gave me some crazy, incredible tips and pointers. And so I took that information, and that's just hard to, it's like I could write a bio about you better than I could write it about me, because you're kind of being, it's like, I can't say that about myself.
I know, right? It's funny, right?
So I just, kind of put my big girl pants on and said, this is what we're going to do. We got to write this down. So I did that. And then, which then also the other one that was like super hard, but I just keep hearing it over and over and over on your podcast and also on, Kimberly Seldon's, is put your fee out there.
Yes.
Talk about it. It's not, it's not this silly secret anymore. And that was a hard one for me because it just feels so exposed. I think for such a long time in our industry, it was kind of like, I'm not going to, you show me yours and then I'll show you mine type,
right,
instead of being an open book. And
so describe how your fee is on your site for somebody who can't go to their computer while we're talking now and listen to it. So what happens? Sure. Is it on, walk us through, it's on services? Does it, work? Sure.
So on services, it goes through our entire process, which is, there's a step process. I don't necessarily have it numbered, but it does walk you through the full process of, our full service luxury design, which actually I have another thing to add that's happening right now. We'll probably be live once this airs. But so on the services page right now, it will walk you through our entire process. And then at the bottom, because we do talk about the initial consultation. So that's what I'm saying I'm charging for.
Okay.
And so we're charging for it, and it's $650 for up to 2 hours. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I think it was, I know Kimberly was definitely one who said something, Kimberly Seldon, and then there was another woman, Veronica, I believe her name was.
Veronica Solomon.
Yeah. And she was saying, you don't want to, and I've had this feeling before where you meet a new client and, you act all aloof because you want the job, like, oh, as soon as you hire me, I'll give you all the information you want. Well, that's not, they're kind of looking at you like, but I need to know that you know how to do the job. Or you give up all this information because you want to show them that you're capable. And then, maybe they don't hire you and you feel like you just gave away the house for free, so to speak. So I have now, I just own it. I'm going to give you really, really, really valuable information, and I want to give that to you. And if I'm not your girl, that's okay. But I want to give you, value and education in going forward with your design project, of being able to walk through your apartment or your home and saying, we can do this, 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 and this. But there should be a fee associated to that. And because what we bring to our clients is valuable, and so being compensated appropriately for that.
So Darci, is it also new for you to charge for that consult?
Yes.
Or okay, so it's not only that you put it on the website, but it's also new for you to charge for it. Both are new.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been in business 10 years, and previously well, no. I mean, because everybody does it differently, and this is a really perfect way, because I actually still have conversations with designers, in the in-person events and stuff, and they'll say to me, I don't really agree with charging for the initial consultation. So there are people that, look, it's a free country. Do what the heck you want. We just put all the information in front of you. So you're saying that you previously did not charge for the consultation, installation fee, and now you've actually changed your policy that you charge for it, but you are also posting it. So tell us about that process. So, how often in these last several months have you had the conversation about the charging the fee, and how many times have you done it, and your contrast on that you're continuing to do it? So I got to believe you're a believer and you feel like it's a positive thing for your business. So tell us why and how.
Sure. So it just launched, I think, within 2 months. And so I've only actually had 2 people that I've been able to share that with that have contacted me and kind of walked them through the process. Both of them received it very well. And both of them are ready. I haven't actually received funds yet, and I also haven't met them yet, but they have done initial phone conversation. I just actually had one yesterday, and it's going to be a brand new build in New Jersey. And he was like, "This sounds amazing. Thank you for the time on the phone," because we kind of talked through. They've never built a house from the ground up before, so we were kind of talking a little bit about that. But he's like, "I definitely want to, get you out. I think to make sure that we're having a really good meeting, my wife and I need to sit down and kind of gather our images and everything, because I want to make this a useful meeting, but we'll be contacting you." So, and I kind of believe that to be true. But so, and I did put it on there, and then I had another, actually I do take that back. I did implement it on one previous client, and it worked beautifully. And they were so appreciative, actually.
Okay.
We
so you
finished the
feel
meeting.
like, walk me through the difference, because I think you mentioned it a little bit in a couple of moments ago. There's a difference in, you described when you are in a consultation that's a no-fee consultation, and sometimes a designer is feeling like, I'm not getting paid for this, so I'm not going to share, too much, because then that would be giving away my proprietary knowledge at no charge. But then you acknowledge that the client sort of feels like, well, I can't really tell if you know your stuff yet because you're not sharing enough information. But at the same time, when you give away and really express your expertise as a designer, you can sometimes feel like you're being taken advantage of because you're not paying. So tell us a little bit about the way you felt before and the way you felt in that consultation, where you knew you charged $650, you had your money, and you were in that consultation.
I can give you a great example. A few years ago, a potential client reached out to me, and they were in the middle of a gut renovation of their Park Avenue apartment. And they had been working basically with the architect of record, who was doing more of the architectural drawings to get through the city, but not necessarily, the thought process of, how they're going to do furniture layout and what the elevations are going to look like and such. And they were working with the builder. And so they said, we feel like we've gotten in a little bit over our head. We want to hire a designer. And so would you come and meet with us at the apartment? So I met them at the job site, and we walked the apartment. All the contractors had gone home for the day, and I was immediately noticing a few things that needed to be addressed, because they were in the middle of the building process. For example, we were in the master bedroom, and the client had mentioned, they wanted these big, beautiful drapery panels, and they were going to be putting the TV on this wall. And I noticed there was no wall to be hanging the drapery panels, how they were positioning electrical and all this stuff. And so I said, if you built this pocket here, you could create this, and the draperies can go here. And, oh, that's great. Okay. And then we walked into it was an open kind of kitchen dining area. And I said, to make this wall really interesting, and so it relates back to the kitchen, you could do this beautiful wrapped millwork where it comes off the ceiling and then down the wall, and then it folds out into a bench seating. And oh wow, that's amazing! You could match the millwork, And I thought we were just like, so this is going to be an amazing project. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Yeah. Silence.
Yes.
Never heard from them again. And my guess is that they probably took the great information that I'd given them, and then they went on their merry way with the contractor, because they were kind of overseeing it themselves. And who knows what went, but I just kind of felt like I just gave you some really incredible It wasn't, like, oh, we can put tassels on your pillow. No, this was
legit
hey,
information.
legit information. And there was also, I remember there was outlets. I'm like, you really shouldn't be putting an outlet here, and because of X, Y, and Z. Oh my gosh, we'll make sure the electrician knows this tomorrow when they show back up. Well, great.
Yeah. So they basically, because they were a client that, like you said, had a little bit of a support team in place. They had an architect, they had a GC, they had all the different trades. And to their, defense, they literally told you what they needed. They needed that input of that objective designer person who could take the bare bones of this project and project and understand where it should go, right?
And I gave it to them for free.
That's it. That's exactly right. Because they, oh my goodness. And so that felt crappy, after when they didn't call. And so what you're saying now is, the difference is now is if somebody, like for instance, these people that you're going to meet in New Jersey, if you charge them $650 and you walk the site with them, I don't know if it's already just, sticks or whatever, or if you're just meeting them at their home and looking at elevations or whatever on blueprints. But when you have that hour and a half, 2 hour consult with them, if they also come away from the process feeling like, okay, we're feeling a little strung out, but we feel like we have a handle on it now, it's okay with you because you got your $650.
Exactly.
I mean, of course, you want the project.
Sure.
But the thing is, you're not walking away feeling abused.
Correct. And I also feel, I'm not a designer for everybody, and every client's not the client for me. And so I can still give somebody value, and we can decide together at that point if we think that we're going to go off in the sunset together down the project road, or if, I think your values are completely unaligned with mine. I'm not going to be able to see this project through the way that you want to because you don't care for my processes or what have you. That's fine, but I still want to give you some really solid information, feel like I gave you value, and wish you well. But hopefully it's something where I'm also learning from them, and this is going to be a great project, and so here's what it's going to look like going forward.
And let me ask you something. When you started to hear people like Kimberly Seldon and Veronica Solomon to mention that they do this, what happened in your mind? Did you say, that's crazy pants? Or did you say, well, it works for them, I should try it? Like, where did because again, we often think about a person who's only just opened their design firm. And to me, I feel like they might be more ready to just go, oh, that's how you're supposed to do it, let me do it. Where somebody with 10 years experience, you're not just going to do anything anybody says. So tell us about your evaluation. Was it like you just went, well, I knew the other way wasn't working, or you hadn't thought about what it was that felt yucky about the other way?
No, it was both. I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, well, I was excited by it, but then terrified. So it was both emotions. And also to kind of go back to our, the group with Christy, two of them, I don't remember if Christy does or not, but the other two, Lisa and Jesse, they charge for the consultation. And that, like, when we met for that summit weekend, I was like, are you guys nuts? Like, how are your clients signing up for this? I don't understand. And, Lisa really said it. She's like, Lisa stands in her space. She
this
owns
is Lisa
it.
Escobar, right?
Yes. Yeah. She wears it loud and proud, and she also delivers it like I mean, I would buy what she's selling, and I'm an interior designer myself, So it was one of those, and they were definitely instrumental in kind of nudging me along. And then, I know Kimberly Seldon, I mean, I've been listening to her for a long time, and I was like, you know what? This is what needs to happen. And it is all in my delivery. It is all in my ownership of how I'm going to relay this to a potential client. It's not a dirty thing. It's not an ugly thing. It's a business transaction.
Right.
If I wanted to go to the doctor because I'm checking out, I don't know, maybe I want a facelift, they're going to charge me for the consultation. I'm not going to go show up for a half an hour for them to look at my face and say, you look great if you had an eyebrow lift or something. You're gonna charge me for that. And then if I want to continue on with them, if I think they're my person, then we'll go forward. But it's a profession. It's not a hobby.
Right.
This.
Well, and it's funny because it's a funny thing, right? It's not like as interior designers, you're not consumers also. You're accustomed to going for other services and paying for every bit of the process of, engaging in those services. But so often in interior design, there's been something that, just flipped a switch and said, no, the first 2 hours are free.
Right.
And really, it's the first 3 hours because you're probably having that half hour, 45 minute to an hour conversation on the phone first. Do you know what I'm saying? So really, let's call it 3 hours are free. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's, and I, when I do get somebody on the phone that has called in, we do walk them through, or I'll ask them, have you gone through the website? Have you looked through our process? Do you have any questions about that? Most people have read, most, if not all, of what has been written down. And so I will briefly overview them so that they also get an understanding of what we are bringing to the table. Again, we've said it before and we'll say it again. It's not a hobby. I think a lot of people, have said, oh, you're an interior designer. How fun. Oh, well, it is fun for about 10% of the time. The rest of it is business. And this is why it is a luxury business. It's we're taking a lot of stress off of your plate. We're taking a lot of headaches off of your plate. It's in the course of doing business. And so, again, just kind of reiterating that value to somebody. And I just feel like if they're going to have a problem paying for a consultation, they're going to have a problem finding value in what we do.
Good point. Very good point. The appreciation for the consultation value isn't there, then it's probably an indicator that there's a low level of appreciation for the entire process.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And how did you arrive at the $650 figure? Because hats off to you on that. You know what I mean? I mean, I get that you're New York City, but still, that's sort of standing in your space there, Darce, I'm going to say.
Yeah. So it actually goes back kind of to what you said. I've already spent time with you on the phone. We'll call that a freebie.
Right.
But, especially in Manhattan, it can take me 45 minutes just to get to your apartment from my office or wherever we're meeting. So, I've spent an hour and a half on the train getting to you, or, if coming up with a contract to send to you, or now I'm actually presenting it in person. So there's all these other things. It's not just an hour and a half or 2 hours of my time. There's a lot of things that have gone into getting to that meeting. And so, it's more than my hourly fee, but I just feel like the value is there, and they will see that.
I love that. I love that you brought up all of that extra stuff, because I think so often an interior designer will consider just the actual face time and what that should be. And I think that's why, a typical fee that I hear is $150, $200, $250. And of course, on one hand, if you just consider the hour and a half or 2 hours FaceTime, that seems like a pretty good, $200 is $100 an hour. But you're so right, Darce. It's more than that. It is that intake phone call. It is the travel back and forth, whether it's a subway or it's a car ride down down your highway. And like you said, you're going to come back and create a proposal based on what your meeting is. But sometimes you're not. Sometimes that this $650 and do you leave it as I will follow up? Does everyone for the $650 get a written proposal of the different things that you suggested during the meeting? Or is it sometimes, hey, that was $650, thanks, if you want to hire me, call me and we'll start the process for the next engagement?
So another thing new that I've started doing, I'll answer your questions in two ways. I rewrote my entire contract, which I actually forgot to put on there, but that had been a work.
Yet another thing that you did.
Yet another thing. That had been a work in progress for a while. So I finally came up with what I feel is I'm so much happier with my contract now, and it was something I've been struggling with for a long time, probably 9 months or so. So I am now bringing a contract with me to that meeting, and it's something that we can then fill out right there on the spot and go forward. However, if there's an what this actually did happen to me prior to me charging, but it did happen to me when I did have a contract with me. I got to the meeting, we had a good meeting, but something inside of me was just saying, I don't really want this project. So I never even brought out the contract.
Right.
It was more of like, thank you so much for your time. You know, if you have any questions, call me type thing. And
don't call me, really.
Call
me, don't call me.
Right. And when they did, I referred them to another person that I thought would be better suited for them. But yeah, so I'll bring the contract, review it with them. That's part of, and I tell them ahead of time that that's going to be part of the meeting that, you know, we may be reviewing. If we, you know, if time allows, we'll have time to review the contract. But, you know, it is interesting. I did this for, well, I'm adding 2 more things to my websites. And one of them was, again, to fill these gaps when there's a little bit of a lull, or when I am, you know, putting money in the pipeline, if you will, of kind of like a designer on call. So I had a client a couple years ago. We did their living room, kind of scratched the surface on their TV room, and I helped them get started on their kitchen design. They wanted to take it over a little bit more so, and that was fine, and wish them well and everything. So he reached out to me, I don't know, earlier this year, and said, you know, we want to finish off the TV room, and the dining room's done now, but we want to finish this off, and can you help us? And I said, you know, I'm really honestly not taking on these types of projects anymore. Tried to refer them out. Long story short, we decided, you know what you really need, because you guys are so good at taking things on yourself, I'm going to come up and we're going to do a 2-hour intensive consultation. You're going to be feverishly writing notes. I'm going to give you all the direction that you need, and then off you go. And so I spent an hour and a half with him, and we walked through the apartment and to the areas that were needing to be addressed. And he wrote, I think it was like 4 pages of notes in his notebook. And we finished up the meeting, and he said, Darci, he goes, you've saved us thousands of dollars of mistakes. You've saved my spouse and I thousands of hours of arguments. And he said, and it was one of those where it was very fulfilling to me. It was money in my pocket. And then they got to do, you know, all the other work. And I said, you know, if you need to going forward, I will be an hourly on call person, but I get to step in and step out, and they're taking the ownership of what they're going to be purchasing and stuff. So I'm not overseeing all of that,
right.
But it is one way for me to add, you know, some money into the pipeline. And I get to choose these jobs. If we're really busy with our full scale design, then I'm sorry, I can't take you on right now. But, for me to go do a 1 hour or 2 hour intensive consultation and go home with $650 in my pocket, it's not a bad day for me.
Right.
You know, to add to that, to the bottom line. Now,
let me ask you a question. Is that, when you're calling that an hour, 2 hour intensive, you mentioned that it's the same figure of $650. Is that's a different service, or is it sometimes it's literally considered the same service, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm kind of lost in there in that.
Sure. So what is going to be going on my website, which my developer is actually working on as we speak. Right now, if you were on my website and you click on my services page, it just comes up with the one page, and because most of what we do, 99% of what I do, is full service turnkey interiors. Okay. But to fill that pipeline, and also kind of realizing that there are some really good clients out there who want to, they want to take on some of it by themselves, but they're just scared of making mistakes, and they don't have the budget to do a $250,000 renovation or right. a $500,000 renovation, what have you. So if I'm having a slow time or what have you, we're offering it up. So if you clicked on the website, there's going to be a drop down where it will be full service design, designer on call, and the other one just left me.
2 hour intensive.
No, the 2 hour intensive is basically like a designer on call.
Oh, okay.
And then the next one is finishing touches. So,
but my question is, this is separate from the initial consultation. It's just a coincidence that the fee structure is the same. Is that the
correct?
Okay,
Correct.
okay. That the fact that it was the same dollar amount, I thought I was losing what was happening. So so I do understand it though. So basically, the $650 initial consultation would be after a phone call, an intake phone call with someone who is interested in the full service interior design, and it's going to start with the 2-hour consultation. But sometimes what you're saying is after an intake phone call, somebody might not be a candidate for that $250,000 or $500,000 project, and at your prerogative, if you get a good vibe from the person, if you have the space in your life to do it, you might say to that person, okay, so you're not going to do a $250,000 renovation, but you are a good candidate for the designer on call, and it's a $650. You can have your pen and paper, and I will basically give you everything you need to know to sort of give you every tip I can think of for you to go about and do your project yourself.
Yep.
Okay.
So, this is the size area rug you need. I recommend this type of a sofa.
Right.
You should, get some window treatments up here, and this is kind of what I'm recommending. Here's the paint color I think you should use on these walls. Correct.
Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's good. And I love that you can do it as see fit. Even if somebody sees it on your website and they call for that service, you are saying you have made a decision that if you are involved in, at your max capacity of full-on projects, you might not necessarily take that on. You might say to somebody, I'd love to do this for you, but it's, May, and I can't put this in my calendar till August. Wait for me or don't wait for me, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. I love it. I love it a lot. So it does. It keeps you busy. Now, just out of curiosity, is that something that's not something you would, at this point, do you see sending your design assistant to handle a consult like that? Or is that do you in your mind think that always would need to be you? How does, because I could see that going both ways.
For right now, I feel like it should be me. It's coming from me. No, having said that, with the gentleman that I was telling you about, he said, now Darci, if I want to, implement a couple of these things, or I'm looking for these mirrors, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking for. Is that something you can help me with? And I said, you tell me you're looking for a mirror. I'm going to have a conversation with my assistant, and she's going to be doing it for you. I mean,
Okay.
she'll be showing me everything, and I'll vet them of like, yes, no. And then she can send you an email list, but that is something that I can then pass off to her if he's needing additional hours after our bigger meeting.
Right. Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. Alrighty. So that's tremendous growth there, Darce. That's tremendous growth there. That really is something, and I could hear it. You said that you were terrified to make that, decision and turn it over, right? And,
Yes.
and turn that corner. But you're basically saying around that corner, looking back, you push through the fear, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, I love it. Tell me about how you've utilized time chunking.
Oh, and I wish I could remember the gentleman that you had. He was amazing.
I want to say it was Jim Riviello.
I don't remember. He's not a designer.
No,
he was
I
on,
think it
he
was
was on
Jim.
Power Talk Friday.
Yeah, I think it was Jim Riviello. A matter of fact, I'm 99% sure it was Jim Riviello that said it.
Yeah. So it was interesting. I had kind of been doing it without really knowing I was doing it, and then I heard his podcast, and he drove home a couple things that I was like, oh my God, that's even better. So we have our Monday meetings, and I pretty much set up my week. I'll usually do it Sunday night. I kind of set up my week of like, I know what I need to be doing, kind of loosely. Monday mornings we come in, we have our meeting, what's on the books this week, what are we working on this week? And then I will kind of map out the rest of my week on my calendar. And one of the things that he brought up was, he's not making a 12 o'clock appointment. It's either kind of a morning block or an afternoon block because, and I saw that immediately. I was like, oh my goodness, that is like, absolutely. That's when I get completely screwed up.
Right.
So now we will, when we're making appointments in the calendar, whether it's to meet with a client or a vendor, or, if I need to run to the design showroom for something, how can I piggyback on these meetings? So if I have to go to the D&D because I'm pulling fabrics, oh, well, this vendor's over in that area, so I can, knock that off as well, or I can make an appointment with them as well during that time. Or I know at some point I have to get to the design center this week. My client is sort of in that area, so I'm going to go on Thursday at 2:00 right after my meeting, or what have you, so that it's more blocked out that way. But the other thing, and then Fridays we do what we call the Friday follow-up. So every week we send out an email to all of our clients, like I said, even if there's nothing to tell them other than a knock-knock joke, and just kind of let them know, especially for those clients where, we've gone to the design process, everything's been selected, everything's been ordered, and now it's crickets, and they're like, what happened to you? So it's just a way of saying, we're still here, everything's good, there's nothing's to be concerned with, what have you. But the other thing that I have started doing, which has been even more mind-blowing to me, is when I'm writing out my day, I'll grab my notebook and I'll write out my entire to-do list without thinking of what's first, second, or third. I just write out, clients or what have you, all on a list. And then I go back through, and on the margin, I will write a time associated with everything. So from 9:30 to 9:45, I'm doing this. From 9:45 to 11:15, because I'll look at the task and I'll figure, okay, I need 15 minutes or an hour or 30 minutes or what have you. And it's amazing to me when I don't write that list, it will take me all day long to do 3 things. When I do write the list and I follow it, 9 times out of 10, I'm done before the allotted time in the margin.
Wow.
So it's really great. And I will have the notebook sitting right to my right of my computer, and I'm just cranking through it. And sometimes my assistant, we'll have a moment of like, oh, did you happen to see The Housewives last night or something? And it's like, okay, I got to get back on task. Here, my notebook's right here, because it's staring at me saying, hey, you had between 11 and 11:15 to do this task, and get on it. So
interesting.
That's another.
Now, the nuts and bolts of that, how do you handle a client phone call comes in and you're in the middle of a task?
My assistant handles it.
Okay.
A lot of time, we'll have like a kind of an eye communication. She'll look at me, oh, hi, Jane Smith, and I'll just do like the flash across the neck, and she'll be like, I'm sorry, she's not available right now. Can I take it? Or right. I'll say, I'll wave over like, yes, I can take it, and then she'll put her on hold, and I'll take the call. But yeah, we have. So
there's a shorthand between you and it's understood that you're just not going to interrupt your day 15 times for 15 phone calls, no matter what. That there is some evaluation process happening, and it's paying mind to your schedule as opposed to the schedule of the outside world.
Yes. And when my assistant listens to this, she's going to laugh hysterically and say, ha, 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 aren't you so funny? Because we interrupt each other. I interrupt her. So a lot of times if I need to get stuff done, I'm like, okay, I'm going up to my home office now because I actually need to get things done because I will interrupt her constantly. Yes, so
yes.
But when I do have it, like I said, when I'm in the office and I have it next to me, I will say to her out loud, okay, I've got to get on this. She's like, yeah, do it.
All right, go away. Who's stopping you?
Leave me alone. I was doing fine on my own.
That's awesome. So that's really interesting. And, it's so funny because so many times I relate things to exercise or watching what you eat or whatever, just because it just seems like a universal thing that we all can sort of relate to. And we've at one point or another have been through an exercise like that, you're trying to watch what you eat or whatever. And I just feel like what you're describing is the equivalent of knowing exactly what a healthy diet for a healthy body requires, but it completely changes when you're going to write it down and show it to somebody at the end of the week. It's like,
absolutely.
Oh, okay. They're going to know I had 3 Snickers bars this week. Okay. Let me not have them. So it's like you have the list next to you and you're like, I said I was going to do this from 9:30 to 9:45. And what happened? And I have to say, I think that, again, this whole reason why, I mean, you sent me the email just to thank me and to acknowledge all of the guests and the great advice. You didn't send the email and say, and hey, I want to be on the show. It wasn't, and I don't know if I made that clear to anybody. And of course, an email like that is perfectly fine to me. These are the things I'm doing and I want to be on the show. But it was when I saw it, I was like, oh, she's doing this stuff. Let's talk to her about that. And so I think that it's sort of the theme, Darce, that you've got going on here. It's the same as your schedule. It's like if you write it down, it will happen. If you don't just say, I have 10 things to do, because identifying that, your to-do list is a great start, but it's like knowing that you should eat celery instead of Snickers. Unless somebody is going to watch you, it's sort of like, I think I'll the Snickers.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I look through my notebook now, I mean, or if you flip through the past pages, you would actually see where I had written on there, work on bio.
Yes, and now it's crossed out.
It's crossed out. It's done. But I did intentionally write down what time, because I also knew that was something that wasn't fun for me. So I didn't make it like you have to finish your bio today. You're working on it for an hour today. If it means you write one sentence or 5 sentences, but that's for 1 hour, that's all you're doing. If you're going to sit there and stare at that one sentence over and over again and try and come up with the next line, then so be it. But that's what your focus is on.
Interesting. So tasks that aren't as fun to do, or more that are just simply more challenging to do, you didn't say, probably take me 4 hours to write a bio. Let me block out the afternoon. You put it in a manageable chunk, and you allowed yourself the forgiveness of whatever got done in that hour. That was it. And you just closed the book on it and went to the next task.
Yep.
Oh, see, that's a very interesting layer to that. I like that. I like that a lot. And I think that's a good distinction, because there probably were days that tasks like that got one sentence done and you just weren't feeling the mojo for it.
Yeah. And, sometimes when I was in the groove of, I know the, doing the employee handbook, I kind of got into the groove. I wasn't expecting it. That was another one. I was like, oh God, do I have to do this? Okay. So I got into the groove of doing it, and I actually, A, got more done than I expected, and B, actually did push something. I looked at my list and I'm like, okay, well, these other things are not like top priority. I'm in my groove. I'm going to keep on going.
Okay.
And so I added a little extra time, but I still was able to get everything else done that day, because they were smaller tasks and they were, easier and more just something like I needed to get done. Like I need to return this email or what have you.
But again, you're making an evaluation of the best use of your time. So you have a plan and you have a goal, but it's not like, the calendar police are coming after you.
No.
Okay. And how about that employee handbook? What happened when you created that? Did you use something from the internet as a template? And what was the result of having completed it? What do you feel like the benefit is to you?
Well, so it was obviously, I mean, again, I was like, I have one, right now I have one employee.
Right, that's why I'm asking. You have one employee. So it's curious that of all the things you learned on the podcast, that you thought that was an important thing to do. So I want to hear your thought process on it.
So, it's also this thing of, I don't know how to say this correctly. Somebody said it much better than I'm about to, but don't run your business as it is, run it as you want it to be.
Right. Run like a big guy. Think like you're a big guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So, and I do, that is on my horizon of wanting to obviously grow my business and have more people. And I want to be able to, when the next person comes in, give them this book and say, here you go. And so what we do have that in we have a binder, which is actually, now that I'm talking to you, there's even more things that I forgot to add on there. So we have the pages set up that have what our fonts are, what the colors are, how you write an email, how we talk to a new client that calls in. Here's our intake questionnaire. Here's our in-person questionnaire, which is very intense. There's like about 5 or 6 pages to that. So anybody walking in new, I could hand them this binder and say, this is my company.
Whoa.
There's the employee handbook. Here's mood images of this is our design aesthetic. Don't ever show me something that has, bedazzles on it or whatever, because that's not my thing. So if you look through these pages, you should be able to pick out immediately what our design aesthetic is. This is our logo. This is where you find our logo. This is the color that we use, all of that. So that all needed to be in that book. And so you are correct. I went through, I don't know, 4 or 5 different websites, found one that I liked. I did tweak it. You can tweak it by state. So New York is a special animal. So I was able to tweak things that were relevant to New York City, especially, and paraphrased a couple things. I don't remember, there was something in there about dress code, which I'm like, well, that doesn't apply here in terms of like what it was saying. I tweaked it. And it's like 50 some odd pages.
Wow.
I sent it off to Staples and printed out a couple copies, and now it's in our notebook.
I'm so happy for you, Darce. That's so amazing that you did that.
Thank you.
I love it. And you probably just feel great. Like you said, like the next time you go to hire somebody, it's not like you have to sit there and go, okay, how do I do this? And what do I do that? And where do you find that? I have to say, we finally did I could tell you a pretty funny story. So I had the same aha moment when Nicole Heimer was on the show, and she talked about having your media package and, you identify your fonts and your Pantone colors and your logo and yada, yada, right? So I come back, and of course, with WindowWorks, since we're retail facing also, we have probably a half a dozen publications that we're running advertisements in. I mean, we have like almost $100,000 advertising budget at WindowWorks. So we're juggling all this crap, right? And what happens is that it never fails. It never fails. Of course, we run the most advertisement during our busy season, which is April through August. And what would happen is every single spring and summer season, I'd be in the middle of 90,000 things, and an advertiser would be like, the deadline for copy is Tuesday at 2:00, and I just want to make sure it's approved. And, for many, many years, my husband handled the advertising, and that's because he has a nice handle on where to advertise and what to target and what to expect and how to what we should pay for it. So I'll totally give all that to him. But the aesthetic of it, what it should look like and how it should be, has been more developed by me, right? And so then I started to get more nudgy about it. Like, that's the ad that's going out? Like, that's a damn right. And then finally, he started going, well, then you take care of it. I'm like, crap. So now it's on my plate, right? So then I found myself literally consistently every week, 2 or 3 different deadlines in the middle of my day. And it was brutal. So then about 1.5 years ago, we got like, okay, let's get all the ads squared away so that at the beginning of the year, when these deadlines come, we're not chasing me for proofing and copying and changing and blah, blah, blah. Then we take it a step further after listening to Nicole, and we just started to realize, wow, if I look across these 4 different platforms, I'm letting them use whatever fonts they want. Like, not for our logo, but for everything else. It was like whatever font they came up with. I was checking the copy. I was checking the way the ad was laid out. I was checking the photographs. But unless the font was really stupid looking, I really wasn't giving any thought to it. So we were like this winter, we've got to get our fonts all together, and we've got to this and that. So we put it all together. And we do it, and now we're trying to chase down our Pantone colors. We're after our website guy. We're after these different guys and this and that. And I'm telling you, I had poor Adriana asking every which person that we've interacted with what our Pantone colors were. And literally 2 of the 4 places came back with different Pantone colors.
Oh, no.
And so I'm just like, because now we're sitting there and we're like, all right, let's just pick one is the one we like. And then I went, oh my goodness, we actually have a WindowWorks handbook where all that would be in. Why don't we pull that out? And the reality was that we had this handbook that is literally 30 plus years old that I had completely forgotten that back in the day of print advertising and everything else, that we had done exactly this, had put in our Pantone colors, had our fonts and everything else. Okay. So I'm so old that I forgot the things that we did.
I was so ahead of my time back then.
Oh my God, honest to God. And the girls just looked at me. They're hysterical. And of course, and it's sort of like looking at, if you were to look at a Coke logo, a Coca-Cola logo from like 30 years ago, you're like, our logo doesn't even look like that anymore. I'm like, I know, we changed it along the way. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
So it's so funny, so funny. So, but I love that. And of course that goes to what you're saying. Like in the part of that conversation, you said you're just thinking of things that you have to add to it. And it is, it's a living, breathing thing, your company handbook. It does change over the years, but the core is there and your values are there and the basic systems that you run are there. And even though with technology and with time and generational changes and aesthetic changes, you will update certain things, but basically the gist of your company is there, and it is so much easier to just hand somebody something and say, here, this is how this is done. So good for you, Darci. I gotta say, it's just something else. It really is. I mean, there's so many things here. We're really on our hour right now, and I'm just wondering if there's something of particular in the list that, instead of me picking one, that you would say, Luann, I really think this is important to share with everybody, this transformation or this other lesson that I learned in the changes that you made. Anything there?
Actually, it kind of is not on that list, but
Okay.
I think we've kind of danced around it a little bit. I just think the value in finding supportive people. You are one of them that we get to listen to between our ears every day or every other day. But also, just the group of women that I've met through Gail Doby. I also have another very close friend. We met at a conference a few years ago, and we're on speed dial. We talk probably once a day. And it's having that person that understands your business, can celebrate when it's time to celebrate, and can feel your pain and maybe walk you through something when you're like in the thick of it and you almost can't see where you're headed. And just that you can be really truthful and honest. I feel like for the first half of my owning my business, I didn't have that. Everything was being held close to the chest. Nobody talked about anything. There wasn't this openness. I know Kimberly Selden blew that door down.
Right.
And thank God she did. And, and you're shining a spotlight for other designers. But I just feel like that's the biggest, that's, I think, where somebody needs to start first. All this other, because if you have that person or persons in your corner, getting through all this other stuff is you have somebody to kind of walk the journey with you. I was able to send my bio over to my girlfriend, my designer friend in California, and say, what do you think about this? To bounce it off of her and have her look at it, not in oh, that's so great, but hey, this is with a critical eye. I know who your clientele is. I know who your demographic is. Is this aligning? Do you think that this aligns with them and what the message I'm trying to get out? Because when I'm sitting there looking at it for 15 days in a row, I kind of, my eyes glaze over and I don't even know what I've said.
Yes.
So I just kind of think that that's a huge, if you've got that, everything else is going to work out.
I love that, Darci, because it is true. It is one thing to listen to the podcast and to get the advice and everything, but there's a different layer to being able to call somebody, like you said exactly. It's, look, you can have a business coach, you can have a business mentor from a different industry, okay? That's valuable too, because they really bring you, somebody that's out of your industry can really open your eyes up to things that you are so tunneled in your own industry that you don't get. Like for me in podcasting, I listen to so many podcasts that have absolutely nothing to do with interior design or window treatments or decoration, because it brings me the new ideas to bring here to bring back to you guys, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole point of Power Talk Friday, right? We don't just learn from each other, we learn from other industries. But the layer of having the ability to talk to somebody exactly as you described, that when something really is so terrific, they get that you just completed a $250,000 project and you just had a glass of champagne with that client. There's nobody understands that as well as somebody who's been through that same journey. And as the same time as, like you said, if something really like, the fabric has been back, we get a load of what we just had. We just had a client on Park Ave, okay, your neck of the woods, that waited 8 weeks for a back order to come in on fabric, and they back ordered it 4 more weeks, had the conversation, would you like to wait? Yes, I'd like to wait. Okay, 4 more weeks later, now we get a phone call from the fabric company that in fact the mill is not making it anymore.
Oh my God.
Awesome. 12 weeks, we're done, and the mill is not. And so, you go to say that to somebody who is an accountant or a nurse who is very admirable, fields, but they're like, oh, so you had to pick another one? And you're like, yeah, that's what I had to do. Yeah, it was just so easy.
And by the way, the one that they discontinued was the absolute perfect one. You're never going to find anything even close to it. Yeah.
I mean, but like I'm sitting there with, 42 yards of trim that matched that fabric at the workroom.
No.
I'll just pick another one. It's like, no, not that easy. No, not that easy. So, and then forget the conversation. Who wants to hear, like everybody's in the office going, well, you're going to call her, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to call her. Yes.
The short straw on that
exactly.
one.
That's my straw. I will do it. But, so I totally agree. And I think that is so awesome that I'm going to say the number one advice that I want to share with everybody from Darci and Darci's podcast is to right now go and think of all the things that you have been inspired to do in your business differently, but are still sitting on a to-do list, and pick one of them, put a time frame to it, and do it. That's my thing to you. And then we're going to say, Darci, your thing is to find a trusted colleague that you can reach out to on a regular basis, develop a relationship with, and really be that support person. And the thing is, your colleague happens to be in California, but I got to believe that you believe like I do that you could be that person for you could be in New York City with you. You're right.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It could be the guy or the girl or guy designer down the block, because somebody, I forget who just put it on Instagram recently. It was one of the big designers. I don't know, it was Corey Damon Jenkins or somebody. Somebody's going to know who it was, but it was just in the last 4 or 5 days. There was some picture attached, and what they said was, or maybe it was somebody on the pod, I don't remember where I hear these things, some of the worst of them, but what they said was, you don't need to be concerned about the designer next to you as your competition, because we could both walk into the exact same say furniture showroom and be tasked with putting a room together with the exact same pieces available to us, and we're going to put together a completely different room.
Absolutely.
And that's the really the crux of it, is that as a designer, your true talent is you. It's not the pretty furnishings that you know how to pick. It's how you put them together, right? And so, you're saying don't be afraid to collaborate. Don't be afraid to reach out. And of course, what you're also saying is that the benefit to you is so much greater, right?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And the other part of that is that, your client, to your point of, I would design a room completely different than somebody else given the exact same, material or product. There's also the connection with the client. I mean, that kind of, it's a relationship. It really is. Some of these projects are, 2 years long, and it's kind of like a little mini marriage, if you will. And so, somebody's going to gel with that person, and it might not be me or it might not be you, but it's what you're bringing to the table design wise, but also your personality and your all these other things. And we can only learn from each other. It's, instead of being so closed off, or I don't want to tell you what I'm doing, or I don't want to tell you my struggles, or I don't want to tell you, I don't know, the wallpaper fell off on me the other day, and all the
right, because you're pretending that your projects are all perfect all the time, and everybody knows they're not. So just be real, right?
Be real, and not that it has to be just like seeing how you can out worse one another or whatever, but just somebody that you can really talk to openly about your business, because the other thing is, especially from Christy and Lisa and Jesse, all three of them are in different marketplaces. Right. All three of them have different personalities. All three of them have different, ideal client profiles, and learning from them what they have to say, it's like what works for them might not work for me, but something in there
right.
that they are doing can work for me. Or if I tweak it to align with my values or how I operate or the city that I operate in, it's powerful stuff. It's good stuff.
I love it. And we'll just, mention that if you hadn't heard the episode with Christy Lou, that Darci is one of the 4 people that were in that summit in that snowstorm. And so you have to go back and listen to that episode. And I definitely do encourage everybody to find at least one person. If not, like you guys are lucky, you have these 3 women plus your other designer friend in California. So I think it's awesome, Darci. I mean, you really are a very talented designer. You're a talented business person. And I think that I just am so, again, thrilled and happy how actionable you are with the things that come across your plate. And instead of just admiring them or thinking they're great ideas, that you move. And it's good for you. And I imagine the business is probably very, gotten a lot busier in these last several months because of it.
We have definitely seen an uptick, yes.
Good for you.
It's been good for you.
Yes. Okay. So now it'll be very incumbent upon your processes to being buttoned up so that you can manage the, the fuller pipeline, right?
Absolutely. Very
cool.
I'm glad that we have the binder all set, so when we get the new hire, we can just hand it to him and go, I'm too busy to talk to you. Here, read this.
Exactly. Good for you. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being so open and sharing your advice with your colleagues today, Darce.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Luann. It's been a blast.
Darci is the rare person who hears something, learns something, and takes action. Many of us read books, listen to podcasts, go to conferences, get inspired, come away with fantastic lists of things to do and things that we're going to implement, only to fall back into the same routine, never making the changes. Are you guilty of that? I mean, seriously, I know at some point we are all guilty of that. Believe me. I've been to the conferences. I've listened to the podcast. I know it. But there are times when we do need to draw the line, when we finally have to say, I'm going to block some time to work on my business. I'm going to systemize this process. I'm going to evaluate what's working and I'm going to improve on it. And then I'm going to evaluate what isn't working and I'm either going to tweak it or I'm going to scrap it. Take a cue from Darci. Be a doer. All right. Why don't you try this week? Maybe make a list of the things you know that need to be addressed in your design business and then map out a little goal, a goal to tackle 1 item a week, 1 item a month. Time it the way Darci does. She puts an amount of time that she will spend on each of those items each day, ensuring that it doesn't just stay on a to-do list, but it moves to the it's done list. Now, when Darci emailed me, she actually quite literally sent me the list of the changes that she had done in her business based on listening to the podcast. And I just simply turned that list into the things I learned from Darci Hether. Now, you can get your free PDF of this list by going to www.windowworks-nj.com/Darci, DARCI. Just think about using it as your own little cheat sheet to profits. And I would say to you, if you by chance have a similar list of the things that you've learned from a well-designed business and you have executed them and you can describe the lessons, the changes, and the results, email me at questions@windowworksnj.com and let's share your journey on the show too with all of your colleagues. Now, I have to tell you, there's a new thing happening at WindowWorks on our website, on our WindowWorks blog. This is the blog facing to consumers, not to the trade. And it happened a couple of weeks ago, but I've been putting a lot of shows in the bank ahead of time, so I hadn't told you about it. We have a new guest blogger. Her name is Erin H. Brown. You may know her from Instagram at Nook Kitchen Design. Erin and I got connected through Instagram, and she started to tell me how she has this new project where she had an opportunity to renovate a vacation home in her native state of Arizona. And she has decided to label this the hashtag the AZ residence. And she's decided that she's going to chronicle this journey of this complete home renovation and design project. And it's the first one that she's doing that isn't meant for families that are her own family. She described it as a treat and an opportunity to share design delights alongside blunders. Okay. So here's the thing. I said to her, would you like it to, feature that on the WindowWorks blog? And so she said yes. So here's what you can do. You can follow along. You go to www.windowworks-introducing-guest-blogger-Erin-H-Brown. Or you can simply click on the blog site on the WindowWorks site. So it's lots of fun. And my apologies, Erin, for taking a couple of weeks to let everybody know that you're over there rocking our world. Alrighty, so I said to you at the top of the show, I'm going to be at America's Mart. I'm going to be at the Kravitz showroom in Philadelphia. I'm also going to be at the IWCE in Tampa in March. And I'm also guest columnist, certain words I have a hard time with. I am now writing a column in the Window Fashions Visions magazine. The magazine is free to the trade, to the industry. Just go over to their website, www.wf-vision.com, and you can get on the list to get the free magazine. It's a great magazine. It's a great resource. There are several other columnists there that feature all kinds of advice, and plus, of course, all the industry information that you need to know to stay on top of not only window treatments, but the trends in design in general. All righty. So I want to let you know that while I don't have dates for a lot of things, if you want to know and be sure that you know what is happening up to date in real time, because again, a lot of times I'm recording way in advance, just text the number 444-999 and enter the word Design Biz, DESIGNBIZ, and that will take you to one more screen. You'll enter your email, and then you will be on our email list. Because I can tell you, this is like the first week of August, and I am putting all of August shows in the can this week. So by the time I get to update you in real time of the actual dates of the America's Mart event and the Kravitz event and anything else that's happening, it's going to be on us. So the best way to always know what's happening is to be on our email list. Text the number 444-999, enter the word Design Biz, DESIGNBIZ, no caps, no spaces, and you will be on the list. Okay. So as always, I want to thank you. If you have left an iTunes review recently, I truly value and appreciate them. And as always, I have to ask you, if you have not done yours yet, would you please do it? Believe me, I know it's a pain. I get it. There's a lot of things that we do that are a pain to do. But if you would take a moment to do this for me, I would truly value it and appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.